Do you want to be enlightened? It's something which many people would say yes to. People that are interested in spirituality, in spiritual practices. This is very possibly what they're looking for. They're hoping that at some point what they're doing will lead them to enlightenment. What does it mean though to be enlightened? What are the repercussions of being enlightened? And are you sure you really want it? To be enlightened is to be quite different to the way you are now. Enlightenment isn't something that you just add on to your personality. It's not just a feel-good option. When things are getting tough, you've got this feel-good button because you're enlightened. It's not that. It's not that. You feel different. You are no longer you. It's not that you get enlightened. It's that enlightenment happens. And you are as good as dead. Is that what you want? It's what you must be prepared for. If you want to be enlightened, then you need to be prepared to die. This doesn't mean that you kill yourself, of course, but what it means is you have to be able to let go of everything you think you are. And if you can really do that, then you'll feel something else in here. Your whole existential tone will change. It's like being in a new car, one that you've not driven before. It's like being in somebody else's house. You sometimes see it in some movies where, by some peculiar plot twist, the main character finds himself in a different body. Maybe the male character's in a female body, or the adult character's in a teenage body, something along these lines. So we've got a different consciousness in the body, and that consciousness seems to be looking out, observing, finding everything a bit strange. I suspect this describes the situation of many people in institutions for the mentally challenged. And I'm sure that many people in these institutions might find these teachings quite useful, because what they're being told is that the condition they're in is actually desirable. They just haven't got the context or the framework to move on, to accept it. And I think in modern Western culture, this is one of the challenges we've got to being enlightened. It's one of the obstacles, is fear for our own sanity. So you might say, yes, I want to get enlightened. Yes, I'm ready to die. Yes, I can let go of my ego personality. What about your sanity? Can you let go of your sanity? Can you let go of your concerns for your sanity? Because that's part of your ego personality. Concern for your own sanity is part of your ego personality. You need to be able to let go of that as well. You need to be able to let go of not just your ego personality, but all assumptions you've got about the world, and actually start experiencing it as insubstantial, because that's how it is, insubstantial. This is when Vasistha talks about us as being atoms of existence, atoms of consciousness. And we're getting the story now of the cosmic egg, the brahmanda, although I don't think it actually gets mentioned again. I think what it's doing though is referring us to our identity as points of consciousness. A point of consciousness is the cosmic egg. It's the seed of all creation. That's what we are. We are the seed, not just of all creation, but of all creativity. In this limitless space. And that's what the seed is. The seed of Brahman is limitless space. And it's not just limitless in the sense of big. It's limitless in the sense that it can have any limit whatsoever. It can be small space, it can be big space. The space is changing all the time. The amount of space is changing all the time, without limit. In this limitless space there is the infinite self, which is non-different from that space. In other words, it's completely insubstantial. It's only space. That self perceived itself within itself as a jiva, a conditioned and living entity. You might ask, why should it do that? What gave rise to that? But this is the nature of consciousness. It gives rise to notions and identifies with them. How can we say this? Well, we know this from our direct experience. This is what awareness does. Consciousness is awareness. What does awareness do? What awareness does is it becomes aware of something and then it forgets itself. There is only the thing that it's aware of. This is how awareness works. It's how consciousness works. You can experience this for yourself all the time. And when you realize this, you don't need to bother about why. It's a fundamental observation. It cannot be any other way. Without at any time abandoning its own essential nature as the infinite space, it considers itself as I am, or the ego sense, though still with space for its body. This I am expanded into I am buddhi, or the intellect. And this is our cognitive process. It then saw itself as the buddhi, which determines what is this and what is that, but which follows the basic illusion of conditioned perception. After this, that itself entertained the notion, I am mind. We think we're the mind, don't we? And became involved in notions or diverse and perverse thinking. That mind thereupon conceived the notion of the existence of the five senses, which, though they are formless, appear to be gross and material, like mountains seen in a dream. The mind assumed that it had a body composed of the three worlds, with a variety of creatures with all sorts of relationships, which were assumed to exist between them, all these subject to time. We experience everything within ourselves, but then we project it outwards. All sensory experience is happening here, but then we have the idea that it's actually coming from out there. Thus it saw everything as one sees diverse objects in a mirror. What it saw was enchanting and colourful. It enthralls us. In every subatomic particle there exist such universes. Ignorance thinks of all this as ignorance and as limitless creation. But when it is realized as Brahman, it itself becomes the pure Brahman. Even if all this is actually seen, nothing is seen, because all this is but a dream. Who is the perceiver here? What is perceived? How can there be duality in the infinite being?